The secret knowledge of Tibet. There are not a few people who, just hearing the name of this country of snows, do not remain unmoved, perhaps because they hear the call as if they remember something important that they have forgotten, and suddenly catches the eye of the mind, makes it rise, and to pass the smallest in everyday life to focus on something real high, unknown and familiar at the same time, something strange and mystical. This name is Tibet. In search of the roof of the world, as Tibet is called, you will find yourselves on roads that climb up to 6,000 meters high to reach a truly unique region of the world, which is surrounded by mountain ranges that reach 9,000 meters high and which are permanently fixed in the sky, where the white of the snow meets the white of the clouds, something very difficult to understand for one who has not been so high in snow-capped peaks. The most amazing thing is that, according to some geologists, the Tibetan plateau was once a sea. The people of this place, about 2 million from the moment of their birth, are at the mercy of the forces of nature, and nature cruel and unpredictable in the sudden changes of sun, rain, snowstorms, ice storms, or landslides. So in general, the daily life of these people follows the rhythms of nature that they've learned to read and predict its changes. It's not our intention in this short article to describe the secular Tibet, but to penetrate into the inner Tibet as the elements of this intense nature penetrated into the daily life of these people. And without this penetration, we could not understand the apparent absurdity of choosing this place for human habitation if there was not an inner philosophy, that is, a higher justification for being there. These people could not and would not want to live in such an inhospitable place unless they are not common mortals. That is, however, is that at least they are not common because they resemble our best athletes, with the difference that the Tibetans maintain their best performances every day, and also that there is no one to cheer them on. Move out of the sun into the shade to leave more room for others. And most importantly, they don't do it for themselves, they don't live for themselves. Heaven is eternal and earth is eternal. Why? They don't live for themselves, and that's how they live for a long time. As it happens with the fighters, they write and are written in history. Therefore, delving into the Tibetan belief, we understand that without this philosophy, the higher philosophy of life, theoretical and practical, in such living conditions, human existence could not be overcome, and without this victory over the lower self, the spiritual person does not awaken. The philosophical secret of Tibet therefore lies in that teaching which speaks of three fundamental principles which nature manifests itself in all its magnificence, in which these same principles, under different names, are found in the philosophy of all initiatory philosophers and civilizations. These three principles are the macrocosm, which is heaven, the microcosm, which is earth and man, the concepts of ki, sarach, and bad-gan, according to the Korwin-Krasinsky tradition. And it is logic, or logos, that permeates and supports the universe. Sarach is the principle that owns the world and moves all activity. Bad-gan is a principle of passivity. It is matter. History is woven of heroic deeds, as we have already said, and as the greatest discoveries were always made by real great people, so the greatest authority of the last centuries in the field of esotericism. Tibet 3 times was visited by Elena Blavatsky, period 1856 to 1870, and through this then young philosopher, the most mysterious Tibet was discovered as in this place, not by chance. A treasure was kept, perhaps the most ancient book in which terrible secrets were hidden. In The Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky explains, Isis Unveiled begins with reference to an ancient book. This book is the first source, the original upon which many of the volumes of Ki Ti were created. It's written in Sensar, the secret initiate language. The divine beings dictated it to the sons of light in Central Asia as beginning of our own fifth race. There was a time when Sensar was known to all the mystics, and when the ancestors of the Toltecs understood her as well as the lost inhabitants of Atlantis, the fourth race, who in turn received her from the sages of the third race. The Manas inherited it from the Devas of the second and first race. They actually memorized the two books of the Dhyan stanza, the stanza of speeches of the Dhyans, from the Sanskrit word dhyana, which remains contemplation. Later recorded these books, which form the central body of the vast work of the mystic doctrine, and published them separately. The Dhyan stanzas, translated by E.P. Blavatsky, are a very small part of a series of books entitled Kyuti, which are written on palm leaves, which by some unknown technique, maybe alchemy, they have become indestructible, and no known force, water, acids, air, fire, etc., can destroy them. They are written in a very ancient language, Sensar. It is a hieroglyphic language that is still preserved in some fraternities. If we realize the authenticity as well as the depth of these writings, then just thinking that we have the opportunity to read these works that have so generously offered us the fruit of so much labor, it will not seem wise to let them go to waste. The first book of the Dhyan stanza refers to cosmogenesis. It recalls the arithmosophy of Pythagoras, among other ancient doctrines, and, as we mentioned above, the same knowledges were common to all the great mystics. The first stanza describes to us the symbolic images, the process of manifestation, manvantara, of the omnipresent, eternal, limitless, and immutable principle. Mahapurusa, which means father, entering into the absolute substance. Malaprakriti, meaning mother. And from the union of these absolutes in the beginning, the universe, the body of all, is born. After a long period of life, it will begin to count down to return to its original unmanifested state, sleep. The second detail is the anthropogenesis. Regarding human evolution, the positions of the mystery doctrine conflict with both modern science and modern religious doctrines. The metaphysical, or perhaps exaggerated character of these teachings, though symbolic, is so contrary to the blank letter of the Bible, or the positions of official science, as to cause a scandalous denial on the part of today's experts and masters. On the other hand, those related to esotericism know that these teachings must be correct because, firstly, they are the most logical, and secondly, they settle all the difficulties that arise, giving real answers. First position, it tells us that man is first spirit and then matter, and that as a whole he is sevenfold, hence that apart from the material body he has 6 other bodies. That in the process of his birth, he first acquires a soul, which is an astral body, and then clothes himself with a material body, which is a copy of the astral. Then that the soul goes through successive incarnations, reincarnation with the aim of individualizing of each human soul, which also entails its liberation from karma. Second place, it tells us about the simultaneous evolution of 7 human races in the 7 regions, the balloons of the 4 levels of the planet, to the eyes of the uninitiated, like the bodies of man, so the levels of the earth are invisible. Third position, that man from his appearance on the planet is earlier than any other mammal. This is agreed upon by the latest human DNA testing measurements and states that it predates that of the great apes. Also that the age of man is much older than 18 million years ago, and civilized man is almost much older. Fourth position, that the first guides, kings of men, were gods incarnate. Leaving this brief account of the Dhyan stanzas, we will come back to the Book of Golden Rules, the originals of which are engraved on rectangular plates, while copies are on discs. However, originals and copies are kept inside the temples. E.P. Blavatsky tells us that these rules have the same origin as the great mystical work called Paramartha, which was given to Nagarjuna by the mystics Nagas. The writing is often in the Tibetan language, but also in the priestly language Senzar. Few of these rules are before the time of the famous Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, and the rest after him. In total, there are 90 small treatises, of which again E.P. Blavatsky had unearthed 39, and some of them she communicated to the seekers of the West. These texts have been published in sections such as The Voice of Silence, The Two Atropos, The Seven Gates, Light, and the Atropos. Why is the mental likeness mirrored? Dust gathering, dust reflects. It takes the sweet aura of the wisdom of the soul to sweep away the dust from our delusions. Try, O beginner, to merge the mental with your soul. This teaching, though ordinary men may not know it theoretically, just as we do not know much of the things we use, yet all such men are vitally connected with these principles, principles which are confirmed at the moment of their death, as they are not afraid to die, because they have lived with them and will be rewarded for this attitude. In death is seen the true relationship of man and life. So if we are talking about a real philosophy of life, then death, which Westerners fear so much, has a place in it. Be steadfast, O aspirant, like one who endures forever. Shadows live and die. What is inside you will live forever. That which is within you knows because it is knowledge itself. Bartot Tedol is the Bible guide that by understanding its philosophy during life, man prepares himself properly so that he's ready to and fearless in the presence of death. And this is why he learns to live meaningfully and freely without the fear of death. Show the way, even dimly and lost in the crowd, as the evening star does for those who walk in the dark. Be patient, candidate, like one who neither fears failure nor cherishes success. Fix the gaze of your soul on the star of which you are the ray, the shining star that shines in the darkness of eternal existence in the boundless plains of the unknown. And this I've translated for you from a Greek article. The article is from the magazine New Acropolis, issue 114. And please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Thank you. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.